Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we are looking at a pen that was provided to me for review by Milligram, the stationery online store and physical brick and mortar store based in Melbourne. It is a Japanese pen from the brand Ohto. It is the Ohto Dude. Now this is a pen that is at a really reasonable price point and it's a nice sort of looking pen. It's got some interesting features, so we'll do a bit more sort of in-depth detail when we look at it on a bit more close up. But the pen comes with two short cartridges. I put a converter in there so that I can use a particular ink that I wanted to use. I thought we'd have a quick look at it, look at the features, look at the pros and cons of this pen, and then I'll do a bit of a writing sample and have a bit of a chat when I return about my thoughts on this pen. Well, here we have the Ohto Dude fountain pen. This is a really interesting design, this sort of hexagonal shape and with little facets. The branding wise, it's minimal, just Ohto made in Japan and Dude written there on the cap, and then a barcode sticker which could be taken off. I just haven't done that yet with a bit of the information on it. There's nothing on the end cap or the finial. They're both sort of basically just spherical, half circle sort of domes, chrome colored, same as the center band there, which has attaches to the plastic section, which is a nice shape, but if anything a tiny little bit narrow. The clip itself is nice and sort of sturdy, good for sort of a shirt pocket, but probably not much more than that. It's just probably a little bit stiff, but functional. And although this pen doesn't need a roll stop at all because it is, well, it's flat, it's not going to get far. So it's a nice design. It looks great. This finish is beautiful. The blue aluminium, and I think it's a really nice, sort of interesting looking pen. It is a little loose just in the cap for my like, which is fun for playing with, but I don't know how long that will be, how long that will last for. There's like a little point in the cap which helps with posting. A bit hard to see here, but yeah, it's just a nice sort of metal pen. Posts well and securely. Balance is still fine, decent length, and certainly doesn't affect the weighting of the pen. Small, fine nib, just printed with iridium point, I think. I'm not sure who makes these nibs, but they're, it's perfectly fine, and a plastic feed. So with the black plastic section there, which has sort of a taper, it sort of sits nicely in a nice sort of position. Realised I forgot to do size comparison, so we'll just quickly slip this in here. Here's the Ohto Dude fountain pen, which weighs approximately 26 grams, which is 24 grams, sorry, which is 18 in the body and 6 in the cap, which, as it's a metal body pen, it's a little heavier than some of its other comparative pens, like the TWSBI Eco here, which weighs about 20, and the Lamy Safari, which weighs about 16. Now these are all pens that sort of roughly cost about the same amount here in Australia. I would say that I think the Ohto is just not quite the same sort of standard pen as the Safari or the Eco. And of course another pen that you might want to consider in this sort of price range is the Nemesign Singularity, which is a little bit smaller, closer in size actually to the Dude, and I think also a really very good writing pen. Let's do some writing with the pen and see how we go there. This is the Ohto Dude with a fine nib. The ink here is the new Jacques Herbin Vert Amazon, or for those like me who don't speak French, Amazon Green, which is a nice color, nice ink. This pen is not super wet. It is not a gusher. It is quite fine. It's not dry, but it's certainly not a real sort of gusher of a pen at all. it's relatively stiff. You can't really get any line variation out of it. It lays down a little bit more ink, but that's about it. I'd be afraid to sort of push this nib too hard. It's not designed with that in mind at all. Reverse writing, well, you can get a little bit, but there's a lot of feedback. In fact, that's one thing I will say about this pen in general, is that there is quite a lot of drag on the page as you write with it. And as you can see, it doesn't lay down a huge amount of ink, just enough to sort of give you a sense of the color. Let's just do a little bit of right-handed writing just to hear or feel the smoothness of the nib there. The experience is more or less the same left or right-handed, whether you're pushing or pulling the pen, which is nice to know. It's not a fancy pen. It's not a particularly expensive pen. You know, it's sort of in that same price range as things like the Lamy Safari or the TWSBI Eco. In Australia, I think it is cheaper in Japan, and I think there are ways of getting it cheaper other than buying it here in Australia. But you know, always buy from a reputable source where you can. So that was the Ohto Dude fountain pen. Now, what do I think about this pen in general? Well, I think it's a really interesting pen. I like the design. I like the fact that it's made from metal, and I like the fact that it is reasonably affordable. In Australia, this pen can be purchased for around the $45 to $50 mark, depending on the retailer. It's not the cheapest pen. It is cheaper to get this pen from overseas, but you don't get the same support with the purchase that you would if you purchased it from a store like Milligram. Now, I'm not associated with Milligram at all, but they do have a great range of inks and pens here in Australia, and they've got some of the best Australian customer service that I've ever come across. So everything is shipped quickly and safely, and the prices in comparison are pretty good. So this pen is available from Milligram. It's available from a number of other retailers as well. I have to admit, in the past, I've had one of these pens before. I don't have it now. It was not a good pen. The nib didn't write consistently. This is a much better pen than the one I had previously. So I don't know if the company are doing some things to fix some of the issues. It's certainly a lot wetter than the previous model I had, and that was a couple of years ago. So they may have done, you know, some work with the nibs and the feed to rectify a few of those issues. I also think the finish feels a little nicer on this. I do like the blue, and I think it's a really interesting pen. And if you want a pen to write on any paper, like cheap copy paper, note paper, this is not a bad option. The nib is fine. It's not super wet. It puts enough down to let you see the color of the ink, of course, and to get a good sense of that, but not wet enough to really bleed through or eat through much paper at all. I've used this on a range of different papers, and really it performs pretty well across the board. And it's stylish. It's got a nice look about it. I like the shape. I like the feel of this pen in the hand. So yeah, I think it's an interesting pen and a good pen at this price point. I'm not sure how it stands up really alongside a few other pens in this price point. Things like the Lamy Safari and the TWSBI Eco, which are in this price point, I think are probably more reliable pens across the brand. And I certainly think the Pilot Metropolitan, which is a few dollars cheaper, is a very, very good pen as well, and also made of metal, but not with this unique design. So if this is a pen that interests you, I suggest you check it out. Get it from a reputable source, something like Milligram, where if the pen has some issues, you've got somewhere to follow up with. It is available internationally, of course, but here in Australia, check Milligram first. Yes, so this was the Ohto Dude fountain pen. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce, and please feel free to get in touch with me using any of the platforms listed below. You can also contact me via any of my videos here, and find me on Instagram at @the_offstage_me. I'd love to see that you're around and see what you're up to as well. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you later.